3.5 years, Trinity Church has endured a certain amount of torment, trying to get to the point where we could rebuild and go home. And this week, construction began. And now, for the next 9 or 10 months, there'll be a certain amount of torment, but there should also be a certain amount of excitement that we've gotten to the fun part, where we get to see things coming back together. We get to see something new coming up out of the ground, and it'll look very, very familiar. And when we get back into it, it will feel very familiar. And so we've gotten to the good part of waiting. And today, as we prepare for our annual meeting, it's good for us to hear again Jesus' call to his disciples, "Come, follow me." Because in a situation like this, I think it's actually fairly easy to get distracted from focus. It's easy to get distracted from what is the purpose of Trinity Church. I mean, it's certainly, Trinity Church is more than the building. And today's gospel it points to that purpose. Today we see Jesus call the first 4 of his disciples to come, follow me. And you and I hold the same job they did. We just hold it here and now. Now, St. Mark's story, this gospel reading, is not very long. It's not very elaborate. It's short and to the point. And there is this air of adventure in this reading as these 4 men leave what they've known all their lives and follow Jesus. But there really isn't much here to indicate really how radical this was. In order to get to that, you have to keep reading. You have to find out what is the rest of the story. But we do learn something right away. The first verse that I read this morning said, after John was arrested, Jesus came into Galilee. Well, that means being a holy man, being a follower of Jesus, can be dangerous. You might be arrested. It's not glamorous or easy. And later in the gospel, we will hear Jesus say, "Do not think that I have come to bring peace on earth. I have not come to bring peace on the sword." So there's more hint of danger. These are disturbing words. And these should be disturbing to you who are his disciples today. And Jesus was warning us that following him wouldn't be easy. He was also saying that the gospel is a disturbing force in the world, and it can upset nations and individuals alike. It brings change, it brings something new to everyone who hears it. So being his disciple will not be easy, because the task of the disciple is to be a bearer of a revolutionary message. 30 years ago or so, Pope John Paul II made a trip back to his native Poland for the very first time. And I don't know if you've read much about that, but it was a radical moment. It was a moment of extraordinary change. And the communist government of Poland was extremely nervous about this visit of this new pope. They knew it would cause trouble. So instead of turning over one of the ancient Polish cathedrals to John Paul II, they gave him permission to hold an outdoor service, out there on the big avenue where they held military parades, because it was an enormous space. And they just couldn't imagine how John Paul could turn that into something too risky or dangerous. But he did. Not only did John Paul II fill the space with more than 1 million people, and we know that because the CIA made sure they took a photograph of it from space, and they counted heads. And it began a movement which eventually would topple the communist government of Poland. So the Pope may not have many divisions, but he has a certain amount of power. And the Roman Catholic Church demonstrates that Christianity can be the third force in the world. I mentioned this last week. But Christianity is still a radical, dangerous movement in many parts of the world. Look at what happened look at what happened to Jesus as a result of what he preached. He was killed for his efforts. Look at what happened to his apostles. All of them were martyred except one. Jesus' message is disturbing. It does bring change. And it can be hard to be a Christian. I have a friend named Dan Martins. And Dan Martins decided one day that he didn't want to be a parish priest as much as he wanted to be a missionary. So he got involved with a group that did a lot of work in Nigeria, and he went to Nigeria, to the city of Jos. And he told me that walking the city streets in Jos was very dangerous. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, there are Muslims that were always looking for me because they intended to kill me.